and welcome to the latest edition of ESPNSOCCERNET Press Pass. I'm Dan Thomas. Alongside me today, Shaka Hislop, and also joining us, looking sharp today, Mr. Earl. Later on in the show, we'll be looking at Leo Messi being awarded the Ballon d'Or for the third time in his career, but we can only start really at the Emirates. Thierry Henry marking his comeback, the only goal of the game to give Arsenal a 1-0 victory over Leeds United. It was written in the stars, Robbie.
It was. We knew not the familiar number, but number 12 coming on. And as you can see in and around the stadium, people of both sexes, all ages, all colours, all sizes are cheering the old hero. And you just got a sense that it was going to come sooner or later. And he finds himself in that famous position on the left. His touch is in front, he whips it in the goal. And it was an unbelievable celebration. The whole place went crazy. And then you could see a fitting moment for Henry and the manager Arsene Wenger.
And you can just see this is reaction at the final whistle. Shaka, what a moment for him.
It certainly was, and I mean a lot of speculation about Thierry Henry and his return. Will it work? How will he fit into the dressing room? Is it just Arsene Wenger maybe grabbing at straws? And then he answers the question within minutes of coming on with a fantastic finish. And you have to say, it's exactly what Arsenal have been missing, not just during the course of this game, but all season. Somebody to take the place of Robin van Persie, because again, for me, Arsenal would have huffed and puffed, and I don't think they would have come away with scoring against Leeds. But for Henry, and you talk about class being permanent, the ball from Song wasn't great, the touch was fantastic, the finish absolutely inch perfect, and it says so much about the man.
Robbie, what could this mean for Thierry Henry and Arsenal's season to have the Frenchman on board?
Well, listen, it's great to have him there. Just the personality, just the professionalism of the man and the aura of the guy, you know, must be brilliant in the dressing room with people like Oxlade-Chamberlain, Wilshere, Ramsey, young players who are learning the trade. But you can see that he still gives you something on the pitch, that ability to drift into space, to worry defenders in behind. You could see the Leeds players were almost frightened every time he got the ball, and that's going to be important. My worry, Dan, and we've got to talk about the worry, is this is a 6-week period. You know, this isn't for the rest of the season. And so while they'll cram a number of games in, I think he gets some FA Cup games and maybe even a Champions League, this isn't Thierry Henry for the season. And my worry for Arsenal is that you rely on the great man, you rely on everything that he's done before, and there'll be a couple of games that he'll come up short, but there's also going to be a time when they're going to have to push on without him, and that's my concern with the whole Henry thing coming back.
But looking at the flip side of that, Shaka, he can play in 6 league games. If he puts in a good run along with Van Persie, that could be the push that Arsenal need to finish in the top 4.
Yeah, it could be, but again, I'm with Robbie, and I echo the concerns that even if they do well over the next 6 games with Thierry Henry, what happens after that? I mean, these 6, as important as these 6 games are, I think after that, where it really comes right down to the wire, and where he may be missed, because again, you talk about maybe injuries, you hope it doesn't come to Robin van Persie, but again, you just do not have the support for Van Persie without Thierry Henry, and it was evidenced. For me, Arshavin was poor. Shamak, who was substituted for Henry, didn't show enough yet again, and you just wonder if Van Persie does not score goals, who will? And that is the concern.
But it's not unprecedented, Robbie. In theory, he could stay for the whole season. We saw David Beckham do that in the past. LA Galaxy gave him permission to stay with AC Milan until the end of the Italian season. Could we be seeing a deal brokered here between Arsenal and the New York Red Bulls?
I don't think it will be that easy, Dan. I think he's a huge part of what the Red Bulls are trying to build. It wasn't, you know, they got close to the MLS Cup last year. They'll want to go further here in America. So I think that will be difficult negotiations, and then the player himself will have to decide where does he want to be. I mean, it was so much that David Beckham wanted to be part of Milan things. We don't know if that's the same with Thierry Henry. And here's just something I'm just going to throw into the pot, in that when you look at Henry, it's something like 3 years ago, is it now, that he left Arsenal. My concern for Arsenal Football Club is, has the club really moved on in that time? Or, you know, why is Thierry Henry still able to walk into that team and have such a big influence? Because if we were talking about Barcelona, I think it'd be a very different case.
I think what the deal hinges on, or any possible deal for Thierry Henry staying on at Arsenal, past this next 6-week period, it would hinge on sponsorship. And of course, lots of comparisons are made with David Beckham and his going to Milan. But keep in mind that Adidas sponsor both Major League Soccer and AC Milan. Sponsorship deals were key to his involvement over the longer term in Italy. But you have to say, Arsenal, sponsored by Adidas' main rival in Nike, they won't be too happy if he stays any longer than he has to.
Meanwhile, Robbie, fans of the New York Red Bulls might be suggesting, well, where's this Thierry Henry been this season? Where's that passion? Where's that enthusiasm for the game been?
Yeah, and it would be a good question. I've seen Thierry live 3 times this year, a number of occasions wearing the Red Bull shirts, and I have to say, I didn't see the emotion, I didn't see the focus, the alert play and that we saw in the game this evening against Leeds. And that's not necessarily a reflection on Thierry Henry or the Red Bulls teammates. That's just that you go into an atmosphere of 60,000 people, you can see what it meant at Arsenal. You can see that he's probably playing with better players and the positions he takes up, he gets the ball where he wants it. And so you would have to say that MLS football is still a little bit short of where, you know, top-class footballers in Europe, and that's why you could see that Henry was enthused. He was up for the occasion, much more, though, than I've seen him any time in America.
Well, of course, it was the second big comeback of the weekend in the FA Cup, the first happening at the Etihad Stadium. Paul Scholes coming on as a substitute for Manchester United. Didn't quite have the same impact, did he, Shaka? What was your reaction when you saw his name on the team sheet?
Really surprised to hear that Paul Scholes was involved, that he was on the bench, and that he would play a part as he did. I don't dispute for a minute that maybe Paul Scholes retired far too early. I still think he had a lot to give to the game. But Paul himself felt that he was out of legs. He could not keep up with the game, certainly at the highest level. That's why he had to call it a day. And to see him come back, I think, said a lot more so about the current Manchester United squad than it did about Paul Scholes as a player, either now or, 10 months ago. It says to me that Manchester United simply do not have a player on their roster who can step up into the midfield, take control of the ball, dictate the pace of a game, pick a pass, and control things as you associate with a midfielder like Paul Scholes, with a midfielder within Manchester United. Maybe cleverly can and will do that when he comes back, but, I mean, he is new, he's young, he's inexperienced, he's injured. Nobody else can. That is the message that I'm getting through all of this.
Robbie, how would you have felt if you were Anderson, sat on the bench, and you see Paul Scholes introduced ahead of you, a man who retired 5 months ago?
I'd have got my training kit on after the game. I'd have been running up and down the training field and getting myself in shape. Because actually, it's a real slap in the face to Anderson. But I think I agree totally with Shaka in that it's a state of where Manchester United are as a squad. In some respects, it's a more of a reflection on the club than it is on Paul Scholes. That I think Manchester United, to a certain degree, have stood still. And that's why Paul Scholes could still come back into this team and command a place. And I'm looking again at your teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid. I don't know if that was the same case if Paul Scholes had retired from one of those clubs, that he would naturally walk back into the team. And so, from that respect, I look at Arsenal and I look at Manchester United in a similar view with Henry and Scholes, respectively, having and playing parts at this time of the season. That I just feel that both clubs at the moment have not pushed on where they should be in terms of real quality.
It does make you think who could be making a comeback next, and people who have got their opinions on Twitter. Would ESPN Press Pass let Shaka Hislop go? Of course we could. If one of his old clubs makes a decision to bring him out of retirement, or would it be a loan? You can have him for free. We pay you to have him. Shaka, who's more likely to make a comeback, yourself or Robbie Earle?
Well, I have to say, it probably would be Robbie. Ever since I won the Conch Challenge in Turks and Caicos, Robbie has not stayed out of the gym. He's been motivated. He's kept himself in good shape. I, of course, know that the quality is in the catching of the conch itself.
That's what it's decided, isn't it, by top English Premier League managers, if it's all about the conch. Robbie Earle, any thoughts of making a comeback? We know you're still in pretty good
I'm sitting by the phone. It's a bit like what Pop Idol and X Factor. 342. 342, give me a call. I'm ready. I'm ready and wait.
Well, Robbie, one man who won't be making a comeback, well, not on the football pitch anyway, is Eric Cantona, who could be running for the President of France. Would you be voting for him if you could?
Well, I would. Listen, any man who can deliver a speech about sardines and trawlers and hold his own deserves to be a president of a country. Some are suggesting maybe it's the only way that Sir Alex won't call Cantona back into the Manchester United squad if he runs for presidency. So, but listen, Eric Cantona, the guy can do anything. He was a master magician on the pitch, and now he wants to be a magician in politics.
He was talking about Sir Alex Ferguson at the FIFA Awards. He had a great beard. I was very impressed with it. Shaka, any good memories of Cantona you have in particular?
Building on what Robbie said, keep in mind the sardines and trawler speech comes on the back of a kung fu kick to the chest of a fan, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
We could him and John Prescott in a ring.
That would be fantastic. But I mean, what a player. I mean, an absolute Tasman on the pitch. I'm not sure if I were French, I'd be voting for him, bearded or not, Dan.
Still, plenty of talk to come here on Press Pass, including the Ballon d'Or. Just a reminder, if you want to catch up with the latest episodes of Press Pass, you can do so on SOCCERNET.com. If you wish, you can download the audio version of the show via iTunes. So the debate still rumbles on as to whether or not it was a red card for Vincent Kompany. This tweet, ESPN Press Pass says, don't understand the debate over red card. Does someone have to be seriously injured before it's deemed dangerous? Shaka, your view on it?
Well, I wonder if MUFCNZ is a Manchester United supporter by some stretch of the imagination. I think opinion has been sharply divided, and very sharply, as to who you support. If you support Manchester United, you think it's a red. If you don't, you think it's all right. I think it's all right. I don't see anything wrong with the challenge from Kompany.
Is it a foul, first off?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I think his left leg is well out of the path of Nani. That's never going to make contact. The right is only ever going to make contact with the ball. Let's be honest. Nani falls over if the wind gets over 4 miles an hour. He does not hear. He chases Kompany back. He sees nothing wrong with it. And all of a sudden, the card comes out and it's red. And I think it surprised everybody except maybe Wayne Rooney. I think...
If it surprised everyone, why didn't Vincent Kompany argue his case? Why was there no reaction from the City players?
That surprised me, and there was some delayed reaction from the City players. Kompany did come back onto the pitch and then leave, but then you tell players, listen to the referees, do what they say, step away from it, and then when they do, you question the fact that they do. I don't see how it adds up. I just don't think that it's a red card in any stretch of the imagination. I don't think his studs were showing when contact was made with the ball or he came close to Nani. I don't think his left foot was ever there, so it can't be deemed a two-footed challenge. I just do not see what's wrong with the challenge in the slightest.
Every single pundit on this show so far, Robbie, has said for them it's not even a foul. Do you agree with them?
I certainly do, and I think the situation is, if you ask any ex-player, probably even current players, Dan, they will say the same. And listen, the only way I could explain it similar to yourself is, you might be reading a TV script that I'll look at it and say to you, oh, it's a really difficult TV script, Dan, and you say, no, it's actually quite easy. This is the same thing with a tackle. Any player playing and sees that tackle, Nani's reaction tells you that it's not a poor tackle. As Shaka says, my grandma could kick Nani over and he rolls around 3 or 4 times. He gets up and he chases Vincent Kompany because he realises nothing's wrong. Kompany's right foot's going for the ball, his left foot's away. There's no real, we've all seen those challenges where the player lunges and he goes for the knee or the shin or the ankle. There's none of that kind of contact here. And I thought it was a clean tackle, and I thought it was poorly refereed by Chris Foy again in a big match, in a big situation. And I do feel as though Kompany was very hard done to, and that Manchester City had to go down to 10 men and had a huge effect on the game.
Look, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Robbie, and I think because it's Chris Foy and because of the furor over that Lampard challenge, a week ago in Chelsea v Wolves, that he did not take strong enough action on, that he sees this, he sees the challenge, he knows it's a game that is always going to be simmering just under boiling point at best, and feels he has to stamp his authority on it. And as a result, I think he overreacts far too early without really appreciating what the challenge actually was. He just sees 2 players coming together and feels that he has to do something, given that he didn't do enough a week earlier.
But, Robbie, we just heard there from Shaka, of course. In the climate of football at the moment, we've seen it. We obviously saw Jay Spearing for Liverpool sent off and then that Frank Lampard tackle. Considering that, what's going through Kompany's mind? Why does he even attempt this lunge when, let's face it, it's not necessary? He could have block tackled Nani and still got the ball there.
OK, let me give you a situation, Dan. You're in a derby situation. Both dressing rooms are hyped up. Both managers are talking about the importance of the game. I've got to be honest, you sometimes get caught up in things in a derby match. Now, what companies try to do here, make no mistake about it, is put in a hard, tough tackle. But there is nothing wrong with tackling hard and tackling tough. It's one of the great things, I think, that's still part of the English game. And he does that completely. Hits the ball, wins the ball, doesn't get the player, and gets himself a red card. That has got to be wrong. Yes, if he injures him, yes, we know that we're saying if a player jumps out of the way, but this wasn't a case of Nani having to jump out the way. Company won the ball cleanly and should have been allowed to stay on the pitch, and we then would have seen how this game would have played out.
The thing is, and the reason why there is so much debate over this particular decision is when you look at the rules, it's not particularly clear. Any player who lunges at an opponent in challenging, using excessive force and endangering the safety. The problem with those words is they're subjective to the referee, aren't they?
It's open to interpretation. You talk about subjective force. Keep in mind, these are two players coming in exactly opposite directions. We're Company and Nani running in the same direction. It does not have that same tempo about it. And again, for me, I think Company's getting there well ahead of Nani. I think Nani maybe just over pushes slightly. If Nani were getting there before Company and had to jump out of the way of the challenge, then I think it takes on a different look. But I don't think that Nani's getting there ahead of Company regardless. And as a result, it's a good challenge.
Looking at it, and it's interesting, Roberto Mancini's comment saying that Wayne Rooney certainly influenced the referee. And if you look at the pictures, he does run up to Chris Foy, doesn't he, showing that invisible card. What did you make to Rooney's reaction to this?
Didn't think he needed to get involved. He's been a little bit high profile in the news himself. Could have got on with it. But again, listen, Mancini a week ago at Liverpool was caught doing the same thing, I think, to Skirtle. So whichever side you're on, you can make the arguments. Listen, if this tackle was by Vidic, I've seen him make that kind of tackle. I'm sure Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson will be backing him, saying it's a great challenge, that's what he does. What I do think coming out of this, Dan, is going to be very interesting. I think Sir Alex has just started to turn the screw a little bit. He's already thrown his two-penneth in and said that Company does this all the time. So he's already having a little influence on the FA as the appeal comes on. He's going to get under Mancini's skin. And now it's going to be important how Mancini handles himself and handles his team and his football club. Because we're just starting to come to what Sir Alex would call squeaky bum time. And I just think Mancini now has got to handle himself in the correct manner to steer his team through a couple of issues, because if he doesn't, this is where Manchester United will take a grip and start to claw back on that lead.
Robbie, it's of course the appeal tomorrow. Do you think the FA will uphold the ban for Company?
I think they'll back the referee. I think they'll want to see to back the referee. I think because of, you said, the interpretation of the law and the excessive force, I think they can stay along that route and be seen to back the referee. I think actually that Manchester City would have been better just taking the medicine. It could even be another game added to it. They're talking about 5 games if they appeal and they lose it. I'm not so sure that if I was Manchester City I would do that. I think that it was a wrong decision. I'm not sure if I would have appealed it.
Well, it's interesting, Sir Alex Ferguson's comments after the game, not only about Company, but his side's second-half performance. Xhaka, he was enraged, really, wasn't he? The fact that it ended 3-2 when they were 3-0 up at half-time. And you have to point at the goalkeeper, not De Gea this time, but Lindegaard. Xhaka, was he at fault for both goals? What do you make of his positioning first for the free kick?
Well, the free kick, I think this is just a well-struck free kick from Kolarov. And this one here, I sympathise with Lindegaard slightly. I think he sees it late as it comes around the defender, and it's well struck.
Xhaka,
you knew I'd go.
How can you sympathise? He drops the ball. It's a gift.
No, because of where it's hit, because of where Aguero hits it, he does not pick up the flight quickly enough. And at that point, you're asking your defence to help you out. He does not get any help from his defence. I will also say this to Lindegaard. His first 5 games for Manchester United did not concede a goal because he was, for all intensive purposes, number 2. And then all of a sudden, he concedes 3 against Newcastle United. And I think this was his worst performance. I don't think it was that as bad a performance as you're making it out to be. But I think he's got the know that he's going to be number 1 between now and the end of the season. And that maybe signals a bit of nerves and as he reacts to having possession of that shirt, which you can understand for a young man playing for a big club for the first time. I sympathise and you take it. You take your mistakes, you walk away with the win.
You might not be returning to the pitch as a footballer, but I'll tell you what, defence attorney maybe for goalkeepers in the future could be a good career change for you. Shaka, just a reminder, if you want to follow us on Twitter, then please do so at ESPN Press Pass. It will tell you when the shows are available to watch online. Let's face it, even Tommy could have tipped that Leo Messi would win the Ballon d'Or today. The third time that the Argentinian has picked up the prestigious award. Shaka, is he the greatest player ever?
No, I don't think you can say that, certainly.
Because he's not a goalkeeper?
Probably. I think without question he's the best player of our generation. But until you win that World Cup, I just don't think you deserve to be mentioned alongside the likes of Pele and Maradona.
Robbie, what if he continues, though, to put in these sort of performances for Barcelona, but doesn't step it up for the World Cup? It's harsh, isn't it, to say in that case, because of that, he's not the greatest?
It will be harsh, but I think when you look back at the world greats, they've not only done it for their clubs domestically and in Europe, but they've also done it internationally. And I'd agree with Shaka. I wouldn't be as harsh to say you could never say he can be talked about in the best. But I think internationally he's going to have to lead his nation to a World Cup, to something major that you can say beyond his club football. This guy, you know, like the Maradona did in the past, took his nation to a World Cup finals as well.
Interesting question has come in on Twitter, ESPN Press Pass. If Ronaldo and Messi swap teams, who do you feel would be the best player in the world? I have a feeling, not me, the person who tweeted in, it would be CR7, Shaka.
I actually agree. I think Ronaldo does better for Barcelona than Messi would do for Argentina, because Barcelona can't
For Real Madrid.
For Real Madrid, excuse me.
Do you understand what we're talking about?
Yes, I do now. Because I think Barcelona can play the counter-attacking game that Ronaldo is so good at, but I don't think Real Madrid are as good in that short passing game that Barcelona and Messi
So
are so
Ronaldo would be a
themselves.
Ballon d'Or winner if he moved to the Camp Nou in the summer?
Something like that.
Wow. Robbie, do you agree?
No, I totally disagree. I think Messi is the kind of player that could fit in any of the top teams, make them better. Players would play to his style. I'm not sure that Ronaldo has the same sort of runs and has a different kind of football intelligence to play with the likes of Xavi and Iniesta. I just think that Messi also is a little bit more giving to his team, and I think that's what stands him out to me as an outstanding player. I think if he went into the Real Madrid team, he would still be the top player and would make them a better team than Barcelona.
No surprise, of course, Messi picking up the Ballon d'Or. Maybe some surprises, though, in the FIFA Team of the Year. Just one Englishman in the form of Wayne Rooney. In fact, just one player who plies his trade in the Barclays Premier League. The rest, all from La Liga, Shaka.
Well,
PK.
If you include
Vidic as well, yeah, sorry.
But you have to say, we talk about Barcelona and Real Madrid being the best two teams on the planet, and it's shown here. I do say maybe Thiago Silva can get in ahead of Sergio Ramos, but maybe not. I do think Cavani deserves a mention. 25 goals, 32 games, 3 hat-tricks during 2011. I think he could sneak in there ahead of Rooney.
Ahead of Wayne Rooney. Robbie, quickly, the one player that you would like to see in that 11 instead of someone else?
Get Robin Van Persie, and it's too much of a Spanish loving going on. We've got to break this up.
Robbie O. Thank you very much, and Shaka Hislop. Make sure you join us on Press Pass Extra on SOCCERNET.com. We'll be discussing the possible return of Mikel Essien for Chelsea. But that's all for now. Until next time, goodbye.